SoundCartel.
From SoundCartel, I'm Nicole Goodman, and this is Business Essentials Daily. It's fair to say that entitled workers who balk at treatment they deem unfavourable to them can be toxic for the workplace. Michelle Gibbings is a workplace expert with 6 clear steps to identifying these toxic teammates and then managing them. Of course, it's always best to start with clear definitions, so Michelle opens by describing an entitled employee to Jeff Waters.
Someone who's entitled rationalises their behaviour in a way that is really self-serving. So when someone is entitled, they think that they should get the best of everything. They should get holidays when they want it. They should get the pay rise. They should get the pick of the work. So it's all about them and their needs because they think they're above everybody else when it comes to dishing out work, dishing out rewards and recognition.
Sounds to me like they deserve the boot. So could you please explain how widespread this is, you think?
I'm not sure whether I could classify it as widespread, but it is certainly a psychological trait that there are people who see themselves as more entitled than others. So in a psychology term, we talk about the sense of psychological entitlement.
What causes it, do you know?
Jeff, I couldn't...
You're not a psychologist.
No, I'm not a psychologist. I couldn't talk to you about where it comes from.
Fair
What
enough.
I can talk to you about, though, are the impacts, because it is something that if you have an entitled employee in your team, it can have a really negative impact on the rest of the team because you have someone who thinks they deserve special and favoured treatment, and what it does is it impacts how other people in the team feel, particularly if the leader is pandering to those special needs of that person.
Does this person get pandered to?
Well, that would be on a case-by-case basis. And so
Sure.
one of the reasons why it's important to talk about this is so that leaders can actually spot the warning signs. Because if you don't spot the warning signs, if as a leader you're not conscious of it, what you can do is give that person the preferential treatment because, it's like the squeaky wheel.
Yes, get soiled. Yes.
Exactly. And then everyone else goes, well, hang on, why are they getting all this preferential treatment? That then leaves other people feeling demotivated, less valued in the team, and it can create conflict and friction in the team.
Are there any other giveaways that this is happening in my team?
So if I was a leader, I would look at things like, is there someone in the team who is always expecting to get the days off that they want? Are they always expecting to get the best of the work that is on offer? Are they always expecting that they can pick and choose what it is that they do? Do they expect you as the leader to do things for them that the leader isn't expected to do for other people on the team? So it's that sense of preferential treatment, favouritism, all wrapped up in one word, being entitled.
So you have 6 steps or a 6-step guide on how to manage this. Do you want to go through those? Shall we start with number 1?
The first thing is really to spot those warning signs and spot them early, because if you don't spot them early, as we were talking about before, you can walk past it and miss it. And then what you'll start to notice is because that person has been getting the preferential treatment, they're going to continue to expect it. And if you don't deal with it early on, it sets that pattern of behaviour. It sets that expectation that that behaviour is okay, becomes harder to deal with the longer you leave it.
Okay, and what do you do after that once you've noticed it?
The first thing is to sit down and have the conversation with the team member, because this is about clarifying expectations. So you might look at them and go, I'm getting a sense that there's some sense of entitlement. I'm feeling like they're expecting more than they are actually deserving. So you have to look at that gap. What are their expectations? What are your expectations? And therefore, what's the gap between the two? And have that conversation with them around those expectations so that you understand very clearly, are we on the same page or are we on 2 completely different pages?
So that's 2 steps. What's number 3?
Get ready for it. So when you're thinking about those expectations, you want to go into the conversation getting a sense of what you think that gap is, but you prepare for it. You don't just walk in, have the conversation without thinking about what's the sort of the conversation starters, what are the expectations that you want to set down, and also have very clear examples and talk to the team member about why this matters. Because for someone who's entitled and they think that the world revolves around them, they won't notice that there is an impact on other members of the team. And look, to be honest, they may not even care. But what you want to be able to do is understand where they're coming from, what's motivating them, what's driving why they're seeing that there is a sense of entitlement, and understand their perspective. Because, firstly, you've got to go, is that sense of entitlement that they've got, or what it is they're asking and requesting, is there some legitimacy behind it? So you're validating. You've set some
So, for instance, they might be more productive than their colleagues.
Exactly. They might do more work. They might be more productive. They might deliver more to the team.
So they expect a bit more in return.
Yeah, exactly. So what you want to do, because if you're going into this conversation, you've got a sense of what the expectations are. You're getting ready for it so that you're in that conversation really clarifying, this is where I think they're coming from. This is where I'm coming from. And then you want to try and find that middle ground and go, okay, I better understand why you're doing what you're doing. But you then as a leader have to be able to go, is that okay or is that not okay? So are their expectations realistic and something that you're willing to meet, or are their expectations not realistic because it's going to have a negative impact on the team? And what you want to be able to do is by the end of that conversation, and it may not just be one conversation, you might have a series of conversations depending on the context and the person that you're talking to and also the significance of the issues that you're seeing. But ultimately, you want to get a form of agreement where you understand them better, they understand your expectations, and you've got a commitment from them around what's reasonable to ask for in the future.
And what's next?
Then monitor progress. So you've had a conversation, you've got some agreement around what you're going to do. You really do want to monitor. Are they changing? Are they sticking to what it is that you have laid out, that the two of you have agreed? Where are they improving? Where are they not improving? And if they're not improving, if there's no change, then you need to have a conversation and consider, is this acceptable? What's the impact that it's having on the rest of the team? And if I'm not happy with that, what are the consequences? Is it that you take them down some sort of formal warning, performance improvement path? But you'd have to be really clear around, what's the impact to the team? What are the behavioural standards in the organisation that their behaviour is demonstrating that they're not meeting? But if there's no consequences and you've set that standard and you don't do that follow-up, the person who is entitled is going to go, had the conversation with my boss, they set all these standards, I don't really care, they're not following up, nothing's going to change.
So I think we're up to number 5, but we're already monitoring the employee. So what can possibly be next?
There's 2 more, and these are almost general ones that you wrap around. You want to be consistent and you want to be fair. So if you're sitting down and having a conversation with one team member about that sense that you feel that they're a bit more entitled, expecting a bit more special treatment and privilege, but then you've got the golden child who sits in the corner and they get away with everything, everyone is going to notice. So we as humans, we are acutely aware when we're being treated differently. Fairness is one of those little kind of detection things that we have. If you talk to biologists, they will say it's something that harks back from ancient times that actually is a survival mechanism, but we know when things don't seem fair. And, sure, there's a sense that fairness is a bit of a perspective issue and it depends on the person who is in that context. But you as the leader want to be very deliberate. As I'm going through this process, is what I'm doing consistent? So I'm following something that I've done with other members of the team if they were in a similar situation, and am I fair? Because if you're not, your team members are going to notice that, and that says something about who you are and how you're showing up as a leader.
That's workplace expert Michelle Gibbings. This episode of Business Essentials Daily is produced by the team at SoundCartel. Thanks for listening. I'm Nicole Goodman. We'll bring you more Be Daily tomorrow. Follow @BE Daily Podcast across social media and head to bedaily.com.au for more from the Business Essentials Daily podcast.
Sound.